Welcome back to The Wicked and the Divine Uncovered with Tia and Kara. I am Kara Szymborski here with Tia Vasiliou, and we are here to unpack the beautiful rainbow of variant covers with the series The Wicked and the Divine. This is our third episode. We're going to be talking about the variants for issues 6 through 11. And we're going to kick things off before we get into the analysis of the covers with a brief summary of what happens during the events of the art that we will be looking at. This is after Lucifer's death. Spoilers. And
to be fair, they do front load that spoiler.
Sure.
In the book.
But if somehow you're just picking up Wic+Div with issue 6, Lucifer has just died. Laura and Inanna are investigating the identities of the men who shot at Lucifer. This is sort of the first time that we're getting a lot of time with Inanna after just hearing about him from afar. They come to the conclusion that it wasn't a fanatic, it was a fan. Or are they the same thing? A lot of in-depth talk about fandom and the nature of it in this arc. Laura,
it's actually called the Fandemonium arc. So, yes.
I know, but like rereading it, I was really struck again by how you can really see it as, oh, this is these creators' opinions of what it's like to be a person that people want to talk to at a comic convention.
There was always that running through. I mean, I think ultimately, like, the creative team is lovely and they appreciate their fans and talking to them. But yeah, like every once in a while you were like, is it me? Am I the problem?
So this arc focuses a lot on that. We get the reveal of the Norns. We also get Dionysus as a new god, but that's like kind of it happens off panel. We don't get the full Ananke tunnel of heads as they all like descend into darkness or whatever. But for the Norns, we do get that, and Laura is devastated because she's like, but I thought I was going to be a god. We also see Ananke planting some seeds with Baphomet about like, there's this rumor going around called the Prometheus Gambit, where if you kill a god, you get their powers, and that's bullshit unless you're a death god. How about that?
Convenient. Unless you're a death god and also kind of dumb in a Joey Tribbiani way.
Okay, you did not just say Baphomet is Joey Tribbiani, because now that's all I'm going to think of.
Oh, it's a moot point, Kara.
Our favorite angry himbo. And then this arc ends, and like, it's been a minute since I've read this, so I remembered that the plot twist, again, spoilers, is that Laura is awoken as Persephone, and I forgot that she's almost like immediately murdered by Ananke, or allegedly murdered. It looks like a murder. It feels like a murder.
You're leaving out some murders, Kara.
There's a lot of Inanna died. Like, this whole thing was Murder City.
So many murders.
Everyone
also, we
dies.
find out more about someone we wish we could murder, but tragically lives, Woden.
Yeah, he so Woden, we saw him briefly in a previous issue, just like off to the side. We get the idea that he's a scumbag, but Laura actually talks to him in this arc, and it's just he explains why he's an asshole. He's like, I can only give power to other people. I can't do anything myself. And instead of being like, I don't know, like altruistic about that, he's like angry and resentful that he can't experience the power and the sensation of it himself. So he uses his power to give powers to women that he finds sexually appealing and then make them sleep with him. So it's really fucked in terms of power dynamics.
yeah, like there's that whole, we see it happen. He explains it and we also see it in action. So
super hate. But yeah, so
villain.
all this to say, to add context to our breakdown of these covers. So Tia, where do we begin today?
Well, issue 6 is, I think, a fan favorite because so many people love Inanna so much.
I mean, how can you not love Inanna though? Like, Inanna is the embodiment of love. Well, okay, but that's because you have a thing with nice hero types.
Yeah, he's too nice. I don't know, but like the glitteriness of this headshot is beautiful, and also like it's really hard from a color art perspective to make something glittery. Like that skill, I am so impressed by how glittery this is. And I'm just saying, like, possibly inspiration from my glitterings at the Wic+Div parties. Yeah. Like, who could say?
Do you want to say more about that for our listening audience?
So I would say in the last year of Wic+Div, there were a series of wakes so we could all properly say goodbye to the party on the dance floor. Like we had parties to celebrate it. And I don't even know how this started. Like I showed up early to help set up, and one of my friends was there also helping set up, and he asked if I could put some glitter on his makeup. It just was like missing that element, And someone saw me and she was like, oh, can I have some glitter too? And I was like, yeah, of course. So I glittered her. And like people kept coming up to me like, hey, I heard you had glitter. Like, can you glitter me?
Yeah.
And then it just became like, would you like to be glittered? Are you the glitter person? Can I have? It was like this like ritualistic anointing their faces with glitter. Like what a pre-pandemic concept, right? Just like touching everybody at a party.
Let me tell you though, I 100% stole that move for a less sexy situation. It was at like the first like sort of post-pandemic party that I went to, which was a work party for our like sales kickoff event. It was like so, but it was like they hired a DJ and had an open bar, and I had brought glitter with me. I forget if it was like I was joking around with my colleagues beforehand about it and they were egging me on, but I brought like 8 different glitters with me, and I had like executives coming up to me being like, can you do my face?
No, like, and then people went out to other parties. And so like, you know how glitter works. Like the Marvel party got glitter all over it. Like people were like taking it on public transportation and glittering up the subways. It was just beautiful.
Just put all this magic into the world, Tia.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh. Well, my note for this cover is that, I was reading this series when it was being published month to month, and Tia, I was today years old when I realized that Inanna's makeup is a star. And so are his powers and symbols.
You were just too dazzled by it to really like take it all in.
Well, okay, but this is like when I'm reading comics, I'm like not noticing the art unless I make myself pay attention. This is like 101. This is such a beautiful example of like how little I am paying attention to the art unless I'm actually trying to pay attention to it. Like I was looking at this cover thinking, okay, what does this cover tell me about this character? Because I'm looking at it with the intent to analyze. And I was like, oh, slow clap for Kara.
This is why we're the perfect duo, because like I look at the art so closely that I forget to read the words sometimes. And I'm like, who said what in the where now? Where are we? What's going on? What year is this? Who is that? Like, do they have a name? I don't know. Like when I try to describe, narratives to people, I'm like, there were some pretty colors and this happened in this drawing. And like, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I'm glad we could unite with our powers combined. We are one comic book analyst.
So the David LaFuente variant for this one, I am so angry at it because I want to love it so much. I love the composition and I love the line work. I love how Inanna is depicted in a really heroic way. Like he has this like his long jacket and it's like flowing dramatically behind him and his sunglasses are blazing and he's literally leaning towards the viewer and stepping into a patch of light, which is, I feel, very symbolic. And then there's this kind of unresolved background. It's very cluttered. It almost looks like an alley of some kind, but then also the composition is really balanced. There's like a lot of negative space. So like the bottom right side is like cluttered and then the top left is like negative space. And then I hate the color palette is like a little bit abstracted. It's like blue and orange. Why? Where is blue and orange? Are we at the University of Florida? Go Gators? I don't think so. What is happening?
Well, okay, so this to me was, oh, this is like the shadow and the flame of Baphomet. So this is like he's striding towards his fate to die. Dun, dun, dun.
Blue and orange?
Well, I didn't see it as blue. I saw it as shadow. So maybe it's like, or maybe it's like the blue of the night sky and he's coming towards the flames. Now, looking at this cover with what you were saying of like, oh, is it an alley? Like, where is he stepping into? Is he like stepping? It looks like maybe it's some kind of gate that he's stepping towards.
Oh, interesting.
And so I'm wondering, like, it feels like an outside setting, but also I was thinking, is he backstage at a gig? He's like about to come out on stage.
Maybe. All very interesting. And then the like, so there are these like paper looking things like flying around. Confetti.
Or evidence.
Because the Gators won.
We're just totally transporting the plot of this story from London to Florida. It's fine.
Okay. Moving on to issue 7.
Let's go to Woden.
Our favorite trash man headshot. Look, I'm sorry. Why are the villains always so cool looking? If you want us to not like them, don't make them look so cool.
That's the whole like sin and temptation thing, right? It's like make it look sexy, draw people in, and then whoop, never mind. You don't like it, except you do like it.
Except you don't like Woden.
No, he is really so gross. And like they explain in the story that he's covering his face because he attempted to give himself powers and it did not go well. So he's like using this mask to hide whatever that damage was, is the implication. So right away you're like, okay, this man is hiding. He's insecure. He is just like so closed off, and his head dome mask is like mirrored. So when you're looking at him, you're just like looking at a warped version of yourself.
Yep.
And it's such good costuming.
So good. Yeah. Like aesthetically. And how spoilery can I get in this? We're only in the 3rd episode.
We're only in episode 3. What do you want to pull from?
Well, I mean, just like there are a lot of issues of identity and like who are you and who rightfully should be you and like all of that kind of stuff that is associated with Woden and like concealing his identity. But I actually think though that for issue 7, the Christian Ward variant is like probably my favorite of the Fandemonium arc.
Yeah.
The trippy Woden variant, as I call it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Trippy is definitely the word. This is a fever dream. This made me nauseous to look at. What are we looking at, Tia?
I mean, so one of the things that I love about this as a variant cover is that it is quintessential Christian Ward. Like you look at this and you immediately know it's Christian Ward, who at the time or right around this time was doing Odyssey with Fraction, which was like trippy space Odyssey, right? So like this is just like he's so good at this style where we've got Woden and he he's kind of giving Spaceman, and he has this sort of like undulating weird tentacly type things coming out of his hands, and he's like puppet mastering these two women who are bound up in that and like suspended upside down. Their faces are being covered, except one, you can kind of see her eyes and she looks anguished, and like their hands are like claws because they're just in agony, and like it's so dehumanizing to them, to the women, to have them in this position and like wrapped up in these powers that, which of course is exactly what we learn is happening in this issue. And some of the things that really interest me about the design of this, though, is that like Woden his aesthetic is usually so angular, like all of the like the really right angles of the lights of his costume and his palace or whatever. So I think it's really interesting that Christian Ward used these like undulating tentacle forms to do that. And then in the background, it's like these concentric circles radiating out of his head, but not in a like Mandorla or like Christ Halo kind of way. It's kind of giving like LSD cult leader.
Yeah, it's like the sonic waves.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I thought, is this what it feels like to be at a Woden gig? Like the creeping dissonant sensation of like being near him, or is this just what the women that he's giving powers to feel?
It's like aggressively pink, and then it's done in a with like lines that make it seem like it's shrill. It is the word that comes to mind.
Yeah, I was like word vomiting what this cover made me feel like, and I said, why is tentacle ecstasy misery happening so loudly?
Yeah, exactly. And then actually you also have an interesting note about the like potential identity of the woman on the right.
Yeah, I mean, looking at her at a glance, I thought, is that Laura? Which
the reason that's so interesting to me is because there's literally a scene in the book, I think it's this, but actually it might be a later issue, I don't remember, but in this arc where she goes to talk to him and he's like, you're not my type.
Yeah.
You know, but this figure is darker skinned, and also her makeup is giving Persephone.
Yeah.
Which we don't know yet about Persephone in issue 7, but like, I'm with you. I like that reading of it.
And it's like just a lot of the greens and the blues that I associate with her like hair and makeup.
And her powers, her tendril powers. Ooh, and the Prometheus gambit that if you kill her, you could steal her powers.
So it's almost like, is this it's a really interesting read if it's foreshadowing for, you know, how all these gods are like so fucked up and like codependent or intertwined or like raging around themselves and each other. And of course, Woden would be jealous of anybody who has their own powers that they have the use of. So it's kind of like, it's just so many layers of creep.
Yeah, because Laura is technically like an extra. And so I could see that being like a contentious point for him, you know? Wow. Okay. This is what I kind of like really what I was thinking would be interesting about doing this show, because even if all of this was not Christian Ward's intention when he made this, even if they didn't know yet like exactly what Laura's powers were going to look like, or I don't know, like just talking through what you see in an image gives you so many more layers of meaning and understanding of the work that you're talking about.
It's like all the Swifties saying, she's wearing black nail polish. This is a countdown to the album release. And we're like,
I mean, I think that gets a little excessive, but I've heard really interesting talk about like in the song Peter, Closets of Cedar doesn't make sense for Peter Pan. Maybe is she talking about Narnia? And like probably not, because there's all these like really specific Peter Pan references. But it's interesting if you think of it as Narnia, because there's Susan and like they grow apart and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I think that like authorial intent is one way to understand these, but if you look at an image and you talk through what you see and it takes you other places, like that's totally legitimate too, because you're grounding it in what you're looking at.
It's part of the experience of being a fan.
Pandemonium.
Let's go to the con.
We're gonna add meeting whether you like it or not. Okay, so then we get into issue 8, which is like truly one of the most spectacular issues of this series, the Dionysus rave issue.
Well, because previously you've mentioned that we don't really see gigs. We don't really see like what is happening that makes people like connect with the gods and want to go to these experiences. And is it even music? And in this arc, we started to see some of that. And the most thorough exploration of that was Laura going to Dionysus's weekend-long rave.
And I feel like I've had this experience, not necessarily at raves, but like at concerts, on the dance floor with friends. Like any moment of just like pure joy that you have felt, like you relate to this experience. And what I love about the main headshot, the Jamie Matt cover, is it's like the cover is telling you exactly what's about to happen in the issue. Of course you don't know that until you haven't read it yet, but just like the Matt Wilson color work in this issue it's exquisite. It's so good.
Yeah, my first impression was like, oh, it's a light up disco floor, or oh, it's like that electric instrument that I can't remember the name of, that like light up light board that electronic artists use.
That SoundCloud DJs use.
Yeah, that one. But then also thinking about the layout of the issue and how it's very like when they're in the experience of being in the rave, it's that grid with the interspersed 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. Mm-hmm. And so the cover being a grid, it's like you said, we're about to see exactly what we're getting into with this issue. We're getting a colorful grid. We're getting the vibe.
And then the Brandon Graham variant is Laura and Sakmet on the dance floor at the rave, presumably dancing. And I just love some of the details in this cover that hint at future activities that these two will embark on. Like Laura is biting her bottom lip and Sakmet's looking at her like a cat, like a cat about to have a meal. But then you see, like, you start looking around because, like, Brandon Graham puts so much detail into his art. And so you kind of start looking around behind them and there's like this guy over on the left who just is having a moment of pure joy. Like, I don't know. I really like Brandon Graham's style. I feel like his line work is like and also just like the style that he puts into his scenes and characters and everything. It's just a little bit irreverent and I appreciate that. But the thing that I think is most interesting about this is, and like, I think this is also kind of like on brand for him. It's a sort of muted color palette. Mm-hmm. But here it reminds me of like when they put the lights on at the end of the night, only because like nothing's glowing anymore, right? Like it's all very muted, except no one noticed. Like everyone's still just dancing. And even you as the viewer, the way that the composition is framed, it puts you on the dance floor with them, because on the edges there's like just a flash of someone's hand, or like, you know, like in your peripheral vision, so it puts you right in front of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement and in this cover, even though it's like we're looking at a static image, but just the way that it's drawn, the whole thing is like pulsing with energy. And to your point about irreverent, I'm like, yeah, there's like a spilled beer can on the floor. Like that was an intentional detail to include. This is like later on in the night. As you said, maybe the lights have just come on. I also thought, because there were a few beats in this issue where the lights changed. There was the moment where Laura talks to Baphomet briefly before going back into the neon euphoria of the experience, and then there's Cassandra off to the side saying, "What are you people all dancing to?" So yeah. This kind of feels like maybe the reality of what that space looked like without the influence of Dionysus.
like maybe where Cassandra as the viewer looking
yes.
at this scene, like the lights are on. What are you guys doing?
Yeah. I also think it's interesting that Sekhmet's such a popular character to depict on the variant covers. Like, we've seen her several times so far, and she was in like 1 or 2 issues semi-prominently, and I'm just like, do we all just like drawing the sexy cat lady?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right. Issue 9, the Ananke headshot. So the vibe is very funeral. Like it's sort of a monotone in shades of gray, except for her glowing red eyes, which never bodes well.
Sinister.
Also, as I was looking at this, I'm like, I know she dresses in like very extravagant McQueen, but is she wearing an Elizabethan collar, or is her head like on a plinth?
Oh, interesting. Another head disattached from its body.
It's giving that lady from Return to Oz.
Oh my God. I saw that movie like once and I blocked it out of my mind forever.
Good choice. Yeah. And then the Emerald City Comic Con variant is basically Ananke's headshot, only now clearly her head is attached to her body. And she's like decked out in emeralds for the occasion, I suppose. I was able to buy this one in person. Yes. That was the Emerald City Comic Con, where I literally last minute flew across the country and crashed the con to demand that Comixology give me a job.
And then they did.
And they did.
Yeah, this one is like with the regular cover, my eyes are drawn to her eyes right away because that's the only pop of color. And so this one, the green is so prevalent that her eyes are kind of an afterthought. So I wonder if the green is like a distraction, or then I started thinking about the symbolism of green, and is this the green of envy, or is it the green of Persephone? There's so much green.
Like, yeah, it's like sometimes a pipe is just a pipe, and sometimes emeralds are just for Emerald City Comic Con. But I think that's a really good read, especially as we get more into the lore of like how the gods work and why they exist. Like green with envy, or like green for Persephone. That all makes sense in a way that like we said. Is that what they were deciding to do at the time? Who knows? But it works.
It probably was just emeralds for Emerald City, but you know what?
It's got many levels. And then the Marguerite Sauvage cover, to me, it's like, this is like a movie poster. And I will say, this is not necessarily my favorite art style. Like, I don't know, it's giving me Tumblr 2010 vibes, but I think it's just because like Cassandra's face acting is really melodramatic. It's like it doesn't feel
her whole
natural.
Like her whole body language threw me off in this, because like you said, it's like a movie poster. We've got a bunch of characters sort of superimposed on top of one another, and Ananke's like large head is looming in the background over all of it. Symbolism.
Yes, and like sweet little Minerva there in the middle, who I think looks way too old.
Yeah,
in this image. I don't know if the artist knew the full extent of the relationship between those two. Like they have some touching moments in this arc, I guess, but to put like the composition of where they are in relation to each other is interesting to me.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with Cassandra being in the foreground of this and her body language just, and as you said, her facial expression just being not what we've seen of her in the series, it kind of threw me. Like her body language is more like exaggerated, and it looks like she's walking with like purposefully moving her hips from side to side, and there's more like roundness to her, whereas in the book it's like she's more very severe. Austere.
Yeah. And the blue steel look, it's like not, it doesn't feel natural to the characters or the aesthetic of the book, really. And then there's like angelic little Baphomet in the corner.
Maybe this is fan art, like in-universe fan art.
You know, it's funny because I actually contributed to a zine that was like in-universe fan art and social media posts and stuff.
Oh my God, of course you did.
And I wrote Cassandra, like the introduction to Cassandra's thesis that someone looked up on ProQuest.
Nice.
Yeah. I'll find it and link it in the show notes. I know it's somewhere.
Yes, please.
Cool. Okay. So issue 10, Bloody Baphomet headshot for the Jamie Matt cover, which, like, excuse you, but my son has never done anything wrong in his life ever. So I don't know what this is about.
You love it.
Clearly someone has played a horrible prank on him.
Oh my God. Yeah, this cover is literally like Baphomet with his face like dripping in blood. Yeah, he's just giving in to his fear of dying by going off to kill other gods. And he's basically like being very petulant man baby about the whole thing, because he's like, well, they're having fun, so fuck them.
Yeah, a bit. And then the Fraser Irving variant is like the Norns and all of their cool lasers. And I kind of like this cover. I read that Grant Morrison saw Fraser Irving's work in 2000 AD and was like, I love this. I want to work with this guy. They worked together on, I think, Batman and Robin or something. But like, I love it's kind of like 70s lo-fi science fiction vibes. And also I remember fans being kind of upset that there wasn't more body diversity in this series, and so I think that they can appreciate that one of the Norns, I think her name is Beth, but I forget, don't quote me on that, but like is clearly drawn as plus size, so they're like making sure that detail is carried out in the cover.
Yeah, this to me felt like a more colorful mirror of their like first gig. Like the first gig that they play is at the Ragnarok festival, which is like 500,000 people are there, and like this is their debut, and they're just like telling everybody in the crowd that existence is meaningless and nothing like this very like nihilistic viewpoint, and everything's done in like black and white and just very stark. And Cassandra like breaks down crying afterwards because she's like, they didn't understand, they cheered.
And as the crowd was chanting more, babe.
Yeah. So this feels like we will sneak a Taylor Swift reference into every single episode.
So far we have. We should make that a thing for the rest of the series.
Oh my God. So this to me feels like another interpretation of how the experience of being at that gig might have felt.
Interesting, because I feel like the colors of this one are more like the Pink Floyd light show that you see at the Science Center in the planetarium. It is also, well, yes, because it's like lasers and fog, but again, they're like awash in green. We're back to green as a theme, Tia. All green everything. Surely it must mean something. Cool. So we wrapped this one up with issue 11, and the Jamie and Matt headshot, I think, can only be described with the shrug emoji. But if you, because like they did tell us this was gonna happen, it's just a bloody neck stump with no head. Could have been anybody. I saw the cover and I went in on my reread, and I had forgotten a lot of the important beats of what happened here. And so I was really mad. I remember when this was coming out monthly and people were like, okay, real subtle, funny joke, you guys. Like, the fuck is happening? But they told us at the very first page practically of this series that this was going to happen. So I don't know why everybody like lost their minds every time it happened.
Oh, well, I guess the cliffhanger, and maybe you think like I don't know if you've noticed, Tia. I am unfortunately an optimist. So I'm just like, it'll be fine. Surely this will work out.
They're all gonna die, but like in a happy way.
Just like, flashback to earlier me saying, Tia, I actually never finished this series, so that's what I'm doing now. And you were like, oh well, everybody dies. Like they tell you, like you already know what happens. So.
Speaking of everybody dying, the Fiona Staples variant. Like, is Baphomet ever not getting beat up on a cover?
No.
I love Fiona Staples. Fiona Staples was so hot right in this moment with, I think Saga was like still pretty newish.
Yeah.
But okay, this composition is so interesting. I love how symmetrical it is. Like once again, we have Baphomet upside down and somebody right side up. They have each other's clothes like held in each other's fists and they're snarling. They're like, their clothes are very similar. Their expressions are similar. They have their eyes similarly lit up with some kind of like aesthetic representation of their powers. And then the notable exception to their perfect symmetry is Baphomet's necklace with his sigil on it is in the top left corner. The bottom right corner where Inanna's necklace with his sigil could go is completely blank. Oh. It could fit there. It just isn't there.
Perhaps telling us who's going to win this confrontation.
And then I also think it's really interesting that in the cover treatment, the word wicked is upright and the word divine is flipped upside down.
This whole cover is like a yin yang symbol. Like this is all about opposing forces. There's the light and the darkness and the life and the death, and just so much like everything from their like inverted symmetry to the fact that their eyes are the focal points of this. I was like, yep, we're doing a balanced cosmology here.
Except Baphomet wins.
You're just happy as long as he stays alive longer.
I mean, we get a lot of like really good moments later on. Not that maybe we couldn't have gotten some from Inanna, but Inanna's just too nice.
That's why, sometimes you need that. This world is miserable. We should have some niceness. Is that so bad?
It's just not that interesting to read about.
It's you know what it is. It feels very only the good die young.
Aw. Well, in this case, they all do, whether they're good or bad. So,
welcome to the Wicked and the Divine Uncovered, where everyone dies, but you already knew that.
That's the tagline right there. Wrap it up. We're done.
Oh, well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon and helping us do what we love and talk to you about comic books. Join us for our next issue, our next episode of The Wicked and the Divine Uncovered. Thank you so much to Brian Murray for proof listening with us today, and to Zander Riggs for editing, as always. Xander is our Inanna, except he will live forever.
Aww.
Thanks to Mike for letting us have the show.
Is Mike our Ananke?
Well, I don't want him to be secretly trying to murder us. On that note.
Oh, you know he is. We drive him crazy. Okay. We're sorry, Mike.
Conspiracy theories abound. On that note, comics are good and so are you.
Bye, guys.